All right, what is going on in Atlanta? All right, it's crazy in Atlanta right now in terms of real estate. So we're gonna get right into it. 1,200 squatters in Atlanta have taken over homes. 19,000 houses are owned by just three corporations. Okay, so let's get into it. I definitely want you guys' feedback. Where are you in the country? Are you seeing the craziness that's being seen in Atlanta? Do you know about, is there a squatter issue? Is there an issue with major corporations owning real estate in the area that you live in? I definitely want you to leave a comment in the chat. All right. First, we're going to talk about these 19,000 homes that are owned by major corporations. These corporations are, and I'm going to be looking at my notes, guys. Corporations include Invitation Homes, Progress Residential, and Main Street Renewal. I am familiar with Invitation Homes and Progress Residential. I'm not familiar with Main Street Renewal. But why is this an issue? They don't own, these corporations do not just own homes in Atlanta, in the city of Atlanta. They own homes in the 5 metropolitan counties surrounding the city of Atlanta. The reason that is an issue is they're only occupying, for the most part, they are only occupying these 5 metropolitan counties. That is problematic because in terms of numbers, it's about 11% of homes within the metropolitan Atlanta area, which you may say, hey, 11% is low. There are still a lot of other homes that are available. Well, we need to couple that with the fact that these homes are typically B, B minus, C homes. A lot of these homes are in starter home communities. So the issue here is we already have a housing crisis. Okay. There are millions of units that we do not have available here in the United States of America, and interest rates are high. So to add injury to insult, you also have these corporations who own homes now, and it's problematic because a first-time home buyer, these houses could be available for those first-time home buyers. Now, it is completely 100% legal for corporations to own homes. I own a real estate investing firm. I have an LLC. I hold properties in LLC. So I am not knocking the fact that these corporations own homes, but I do understand the implications, and I understand that because these homes are not available, they're being occupied by renters, they are owned by these major corporations, then there is not as much availability for the first time home buyers, right? And I'm going to play devil's advocate here because on the flip side of that, there are a lot of homes that are sitting on the market. So, yes, in the news, we're going to hear, oh my gosh, 19,000 homes. This is so problematic. But there are a lot of houses sitting on the market in Metro Atlanta that are vacant. So, the question lies, if first time home buyers need these houses, then why aren't they purchasing the ones available? And that comes with inflation. That comes with how expensive houses are now. When I bought my first home over 10 years ago, it was like $127,000. That same house today could sell for $350,000. We have an affordability issue that is bigger than a corporation issue. So that's my take, but I definitely want to hear your opinion. What do you think about it? Do you think that corporations are impeding or affecting first time home buyers' ability to actually get into their first home? Okay, with that being said, we're going to roll right into the squatter situation because the squatter situation, in my opinion, is way bigger than the corporation issue. Okay, squatters in Atlanta. 1,200 homes have been taken over by squatters. And if you guys stick with me just a little bit longer, I'm going to share with you pretty much story time. I'm going to share a story with you about squatters here in Atlanta, somebody that's actually dealing with it, and we'll go from there. So these squatters, many of them are within Metro Atlanta, are occupying homes in DeKalb County. DeKalb County is a county that's located in metropolitan Atlanta, outside of Fulton County. It is a predominantly African American county, and the squatters are problematic. Like, the squatters are such a big problem. They have an Instagram dedicated to homes that squatters can take over. Like, it is a real problem. Now, I will say, when I was doing my research, there has been a bill that has been passed. It's called the Georgia Squatter Reform Act. It was passed last week. Now it's going to go to Senate to be voted on. And the reason being is, when these squatters take over these homes, it becomes a civil matter. It is not a criminal act. So, being that it is a civil matter, the landlords have to go through eviction court. Well, in the Atlanta metropolitan area, ever since 2020, we all know what happened in 2020. I don't want to get my video flagged, but in 2020, we know what happened. Because of 2020 and 2021, there's been a backlog in Metro Atlanta, state of Georgia, around the country, of people who have yet to be evicted. So, if a squatter takes over a vacant property, that landlord has to take it to court. And some of you may be saying, listen, not my property. If it was my property, I would do X, Y, and Z. Well, the New York, let me see. The New York Post actually has an article about this. And there's a story in that article where they talk about someone in Metro Atlanta trying to take back their home, move the squatter out, and they were shot. So, not only is it a financial issue, not only is it a frustrating issue, it can also be a life or death situation when it comes to these landlords. Landlords are having to file bankruptcy. They're having to foreclose on these properties. It's ugly. It's an ugly mess. So, I'm hoping that bill passes very soon to make this a criminal act. But that's 1,200 homes. Most counties in Metro Atlanta have a police shortage. They're actively hiring police officers. So, we'll see how, not only when will that bill pass, but how is it going to practically take effect to get the squatters out of the homes? And that we do not know. Okay. So, back to the squatters. The New York Post article also talks about how not only are these homes being taken over, they're being turned into strip clubs, and people are terrorizing the community, which is all of it is problematic. All of it is an issue. All of it is terrible. Do you guys know anyone who's ever had their home taken over by a squatter? How did that situation end? Is it an ongoing situation? I definitely want to hear from you, whether you are here live or you can leave a comment later. I want to know, like, do you know any situations of squatters? How did it play out? Speaking of, I am a part of a group, and this group is for people who own real estate in Metro Atlanta. So and someone just posted this today. So it says, I have a squatter problem and I need some advice from this group. This individual applied to rent out our house and submitted payments and everything. We left the keys to the house in the house and gave them the access code to the property. However, they withdrew their payment immediately after. Once we saw that, we canceled the lease and told them to mail back the keys and not to access the house. But it was too late. They'd already grabbed the keys. I called the police, but they said it's a civil matter. Even though this individual's access to the house was rebuked, they moved their property into the house as of Friday. How do I handle this? And the responses there are, you're going to have to take it to court. You're going to have to go through eviction court. And who knows what condition the property will be in after the squatters move out. So what I know in the metropolitan Atlanta area, because there was another gentleman, and this article story came out, I believe, yesterday. A gentleman was caring for his sick wife. He had a rental property. He had renovated it. It was vacant. He had listed it on one of the listing sites. I don't know which one. I'm going to assume Zillow, because many people list their rental properties on Zillow. Once he cared for his sick wife, he realized that squatters had moved into the home, moved into his house, moved into his rental property, and it was now a civil matter. He would have to evict these individuals, and who knows how long that process is going to take, right? So nobody wins in this situation. It's it honestly is terrible, but the way that it's playing out is when landlords are listing these properties on these various websites, and they're showing pictures and people could see that it is vacant. Sometimes individuals are going and changing the locks, pretending as though they have a lease, and then leasing the property to someone else. And then others, they do slick stuff like this, like I mentioned in the story that I just told you, where they signed the lease, money was exchanged. They probably took a screenshot or printed out that lease once it was signed. And then now when the police come to the door and they say, "Hey, we're here because the landlord told us you're trespassing," they're like, "Here, I have a lease," right? But they're reversing those payments. They're doing chargebacks. So some can say get a money order, wire transfer. It's just, I don't know that there is a great solution for this problem, because most people, if you're renting out your property, you're going to have to list it on some type of listing site. But there definitely has to be some checks and balances so that landlords can protect themselves, because regardless of what the numbers are. So in the beginning, I shared that 19,000 homes are owned by 3 corporations in Metro Atlanta. The reality is major corporations only own about 3% of real estate across the United States of America. Very small portion. Most landlords are mom and pop landlords, meaning they have a primary home and then they may have a second home they use as a rental property. They may have inherited a home. That gentleman who was taking care of his sick wife, he had inherited that property from his father who passed away 3 years ago. So when you think about landlords, and I know rent is going up across the country, when you think about landlords, understand that most landlords are mom and pop landlords. They may have 1 to 3 properties in addition to their primary residence, and being without rent for several months, having to go through the evict. I've had to evict a few people. Going through the eviction process is not fun for the tenant, and it's definitely not fun for the landlord, because we have to pay for eviction. We have to go to court. And eviction court is awful, y'all. Eviction court. I don't wish eviction court on anybody, landlord or tenant. Eviction court is awful. Okay. So we have to have understanding and patience through this situation. But my heart goes out to every person that is dealing with this. Again, in the comments, I want to hear your stories. Where are you in the country? What do you know about either the squatter situation or the fact that corporations own a lot of homes in metropolitan areas? How is that impacting you? How is that affecting you? What is your opinion? All right, until next time, thanks so much for watching. You guys have a good one.